Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool repair video for you today. This is part 2 of an Asteroids Deluxe repair video that we did. If you didn't catch the first one, click the link below and we're going to continue where we left off last time and work through the rest of this machine for you this afternoon.
So it's 4 high ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 low one. Over and over and over again, right? So we'll turn this off. Let's go look at our trusty online manual. And in the manual, it says sequence of beeps.
Okay.
Sequence of beeps. So we're getting 4 highs and 1 low. So N3. Possible bad RAM chip location N3. So guess what we're going to do next? We're going to replace N3. Alright, so online it was telling us, oh, what chip? N3. That one, right there. Now, there's a couple ways you can take these out. Usually, most people, including me, don't have good enough equipment to do it. I've got a desoldering iron, but I'm not any good at using it. So, the best way to take it out is, since we already know this chip's trash, and they're only like $2 for a new one, I've got a ton of them anyway, we're just going to cut the damn chip out and ruin the chip, but save the board. Because if you look at all these traces running to it, if you try to pry that out, you might screw up those traces, and then it's a pain to replace it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some side cutters and cut the damn thing out. Pin by pin. Oh no, we're ruining a chip that's already bad, according to the test. Now if I do all this on tape, on video, and then we do the test and it beeps the same one again, that's really going to suck. So the chip has been removed, and it is a 2114 RAM chip. So you can't put the new chip in, of course, because you got all of the legs still in place. But now, instead of trying to pry the whole chip up at once, you can just try to pull each pin out at once. So what we're going to do is, you got to kind of follow to make sure you're on the right one. It's this one. What we're going to do is, we're going to remove all of those pins one by one with a solder sucker. But a little trick to make it easier is if you reflow the solder on them. So, make sure I'm on the right one. See if you can see that. Yep. So, soldering iron needs a new tip pretty soon. But you go through and you just add a little bit of solder to the old solder. And that basically just mixes it together and makes it all work a little better. Boop, 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 boop. You got to be careful that you don't want to hold the iron on the pins too long, because it'll start burning the board and lifting the traces. And so whenever you're done with that, use the little solder pump. You get it where it's melting, and bam. So basically you're sucking all the solder out to where there's nothing left in there, theoretically, but the leg. Now, it usually doesn't work perfect, so you don't get all the solder out. So what I do is I go through and I just get all the ones out that'll pop out easy. And then the ones that are a little stubborn, I use a pair of tweezers or something to pull out while I heat it from the back. Alright, so that'll get some of them out. Usually you can just pull them out, depending on how good you are at it. If you're good with the solder iron, the solder sucker, the solder, whatever the hell it's called, that I showed you a second ago, you can use it, but I just got all those out by hand. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 that I couldn't get out at first. So you can use a pair of tweezers. You can just use your hand if you're man enough or woman enough. We're equal opportunity offenders around here, people. Be quick with it, it ain't that big of a deal. Alright, so we've got all of the pins out, but some of the holes, I usually hold it up to like the wall. Oh, there's only one that's not that great. So I hold it up to the wall and look through it, and that third one still has a little too much gunk in it. But now it doesn't. So then, if you've got the right size socket, you can put a nice dual wipe socket in it. The only ones I have in right now are the machine pin ones. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces to put in, and then put the new chip in it. So, but you can see how clean it gets it when you cut it out instead of trying to pry it out. Because you know the chip's junk anyway. It just told you it was. Now if you don't know it is, it costs a little more because you're just guessing at it. But I'll put a socket in it and a new chip, and we'll see how it beeps after that. Alright, so we got the chip in there. As you can see, we plugged it back in and had the power, and I heard a little beep. And so, nothing on the screen, but we're going to throw it in test mode. Listen to this. Did you hear the little boop? Hearing little beeps. There's nothing on the screen. We're going to go back out to game mode. Alright. I'm going to give it a credit. We don't have any video though, so the monitor is messed up. But we got the game board working, I think. It might not be sending out a signal though, but we'll check that. Maybe we'll hook up the scope to it and see if we get a signal on the scope. So we'll try that next. Okay, folks. So our problem was we couldn't tell if the monitor was messed up or if the board's not sending out the signal, which is a problem you run into on all the vectors. So just recently we got this old scope that we've been screwing around with. This old oscilloscope, trying to learn how to use it. And so what you can do on these XY monitors, let me see if I can get that where you can actually see it. I just got it laid on the floor. Okay. What we usually do with these XY monitors is we just keep troubleshooting it. But what you can do with the scope is if you've got 2 inputs, X and Y, you can hook up a probe to one, which looks like this, and then you can hook up a probe to the other one, and you have to hook up a ground, and then whenever you turn the game on and the scope on, you can actually see the game on the oscilloscope. So like if you go to just channel 1, that's the like the x-axis. Have I got that right? I believe so. So it's just the x-axis, and you can do it the other way too with just the other one, but if you go to XY, it actually works just like a vector monitor. So it's a good way to test if your monitor's bad or your board's bad. So obviously the board's fine. So I'll start a game and you can see it playing the game actually. I can't tell what I'm doing, but But as you can see, it's actually playing Asteroids. So we now know that the board is fine. Or, I mean, there might be glitches or something. We can't really tell. Another thing, if you look real close, the image is upside down, I believe, because this is an Asteroids Deluxe, so the image is reversed. I believe. Am I right about that? Is it upside down? No, it's not upside down. Never mind. It's backwards. I'm not sure where that is, but we now we know that the game board's fine, or at least pretty much fine, and it any problems with it are the actual monitor. So we're going to start working on the monitor next and seeing what we can figure out. All right, folks, so this is the deflection board on the Asteroids monitor. They're a little simpler, it seems, than the color ones. If you watched our video last week or a couple weeks ago, we did a Tempest, which was, you know, the same stuff was going on. So on this one, the first thing you can see whenever you take it out is that that fuse is blown all to hell. But you shouldn't just go by looking at them, because this one's also blown, but it doesn't look like it's blown. So these first two fuses are blown. And why did we start on this board? Because this is the next in the line. So like if you follow the power up, it runs to this board first, and then jumps over to the other boards. So always start at the wall. Just follow the path of the power, and you can figure out where it's losing power, so it's not working. Well, this one's not getting power because these two fuses are blown. So why are those two fuses blown? Well, it's F100 and F101. Which tells you it's the first freaking fuses, right? And if you look, whenever the power comes in, it goes to this bridge rectifier here, which, like we were saying earlier, turns AC to DC. So, if you put your multimeter on diode check, can you see that right there? Can you see that? I guess you can. I don't know if I can get both in at the same time. Let's try it like so. Put that over there, and that like that. How's that, folks? All right, so you put it on diode check, and then the bridge rectifier is right here. And you'll see that on a bridge rectifier, it's marked plus. That's the plus, and the one directly across from it's the negative, and then these two are the AC, right? So the way you check it is on the negative, you put your red probe on diode check, and then you check the one next to it. So 0.478, so anything between 0.4 and 0.6 is probably good. Now, it's not a fail-safe test, so it could still be bad, but it's probably fine, right? And if it's a little low, like it was 0.38, it might be fine, and if it's 0.7, it still might be fine. So it's not, it doesn't have to be exact. We're just trying to get an idea if this bridge rectifier is good. So that one's fine, and then check it out over here. See how it went to 0 and then it goes up? That's because it's charging up a cap somewhere in the circuit. So now it's at 0.475. That's where it settled out at. So it's probably good, right? And then to check the other side, you put your black probe on the positive, and then check to do the same thing. So 0.481, right? And then if you check the other one, 0.000. So what's that tell you? This bridge rectifier is bad. This pin is shorted to this pin. So basically, you've got the AC power shorted together, which is what's blowing the fuse. So, or at least one of the fuses. I don't know if that would blow both. It looks like you can see one of the fuses here runs to this pin of the AC, and one of the fuses here runs to this pin of the AC. So if you short the two together, yeah, you might get both fuses blowing. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace that bridge rectifier, and then we're going to replace the two fuses, and then we're going to rework some more of the board too. So I'll film some of that. All right, folks, this is what we ended up with. I didn't have the little small, you know, I like to use what I got, right? I didn't have the little small bridge rectifier, so I went with the big Mac Daddy 20 amp one, or that might even be a 30 amp one. I think that's a 35 amp bridge rectifier, so that should be overkill. You can go up. This It says 8048, so maybe that's an 8 amp or a 4 amp bridge rectifier. So when you go bigger, I don't believe you need the heat sink, so I think I'm good on that. And then I recapped, put new fuses. And then every time you do these, or not every time, but if they've never been worked on before, you really need to resolder the connectors, like where the pins are, where things plug in. Or if it's bad enough, you might even have to replace the connectors, because what happens is the plug goes on and then you take it loose, you take it loose, you take it loose, and every time you do that, you bend this pin a little bit, and after a while, it snaps loose from the back, and there'll be a little tiny ring around the pin that you can barely see where it's not really connecting, so it won't be conducting any electricity like it should. But this one's actually pretty clean. It had a little bit of that dirt on it though, and you know, it's hard for me to believe that the damn thing flooded 4.5 feet deep. I mean, it would have been completely destroyed, so I don't know what all that dirt and silt is. I've seen stuff too that's been rained on before, and it'll have little peck marks in the dirt, and this is just smoothly. I don't know. Maybe it went through a sandstorm in Oklahoma or something, or in the Dust Bowl back in the day. I don't know. But what we're going to do now is we're going to put this back in the game. But before we turn it on, we're going to check the transistors that are mounted to the side of the frame. There's 4 transistors mounted, and they plug in here and here. And if those are bad, usually it'll blow these fuses, and these fuses are not blown. So the transistors are probably fine, but we're going to check just to make sure. You can replace those two if you want. They're 3716s and 3792s. Like that's a 3792. We took out a one the other day. They just mount on the side. But on one hand, they're cheap to do. They don't cost much. But on the other hand, if it ain't broke, transistors don't really wear out. They just short out or stop working. So you can replace them if you would like. But what I would like is to get the game up and running so I can see my handiwork. So I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to check those transistors with the diode test with the multimeter and see if they're shorted. So basically you just connect the pins together and see if any of them are shorted together. And if they're not, we're going to plug it in and we're going to fire it up. Now, we haven't rebuilt the high voltage section yet, but we'll do that too. Alright folks, so we tested the transistors, they were fine. We put the board in, and now we are getting net glow. Turned it on, of course, and we're up on the screen, but it's in a really weird spot. So I think what's going on is that the image is just way too damn big for the screen. I do believe. But there's some other stuff going on too. So I'm going to try to adjust it down using the pots on the board. Let's put it in test mode. Maybe we can tell a little better from that. Remember, it looked all right on the scope, but I might have had the scope set smaller. Yeah, see, our position is way too high. And so we're basically like half off the screen. And there's some other crap going on, so I don't know. I don't know, folks. Looks like it needs a little bit of work. But I'll see how well I can adjust it, and then I'll come back here in a second. All right, folks. This is about 3 minutes after the last video. I figured out that if you wiggle the connector to the PCB board, it made the image pop in like this, or pretty much like this, and then I adjusted the size down. So pretty much we're looking pretty good, but there's some kind of bad connection on the edge connector where it goes into the PCB, so I'll replace some pins on that, or at least clean it up a little bit until I can wiggle it and it won't be messed up. Now on Asteroids Deluxe, the monitor is actually down there, and you're looking at a mirror. There's a black light bulb that's not working right now that should be lighting that all up to where it looks like it's basically in space. Let's throw it out of test mode. If I can find the test switch. So you can see what's going on. Doesn't look as good with the
without the black light. Also, there's a, you know, the bezel's filthy, the glass is filthy, the top of the glass is filthy, the monitor tube is filthy. So all of that's going to get cleaned up and it'll look even better. That's where we are. I'm going to take out the high voltage unit and rebuild it just for the hell of it, and we'll film that too. All right, folks, so this is the high voltage unit. This is like basically what has the flyback in it and makes the deflection board makes the image, but the high voltage unit makes the brightness so you can actually see it. So we are going to rebuild it too. These are real simple, just like the deflection board's pretty simple. Notice I'm not having to do much troubleshooting. I just have to do a little bit of preventative maintenance basically. But you do get them that are messed up from time to time. This one may end up being one that's messed up because we haven't had it let it run for a while. So what we'll do is we'll once we get it fixed and where it's up and running, we'll turn that sucker on and let it sit there and purr. Let's see what we've got here. So you can see there's 3 original caps that need to be changed, and that one there too. Be back in a second. All right, I made it back. As I was saying, we've got some capacitors we need to replace. There's one up there. Those all look original. Yeah, looks like nothing's been done to the bottom of it. So this is in situ. All of this was done in antiquity. I don't see anything burnt slap the hell up, which is, you know, believable because it's up and running, right? So I think all I'm going to do is I'm going to resolder this connector. Bam. I'm going to change those 4 caps. Bam. And I'm going to leave this alone. This is the high voltage diode. That can cause you problems, but I'm just going to leave it how it is. If you mess with it, that's when it might start causing you problems. I've actually got some of those replacement if it starts screwing up. You'll know this is bad if you lose the entire image, or if you the image gets real big after a while. So if you leave it on and the damn thing gets 2 or 3 times as big as the screen, it's probably this diode. You can still get these new old stock because they used them in other things. But like I said, I'm just going to replace those 4 caps, clean it up a little bit, and put it back in, and I think that'll get us going because it was already up and running. Okay, folks, so we put that back in. The only other thing that I had to do electronically, I didn't film, but remember how the screen was doing some crazy stuff? And I figured out that if you wiggle a wire, it made it come back in. Well, what I was doing when I wiggled the wire was it was flexing the game board a little bit. So I figured out if you press the game board, it would go good, go bad, go good, go bad. And what it was on the Y deflection circuit right at the edge, right before it went out, there were a bunch of caps and things, and on the back of the board the posts were real close to each other, and so there was like 3 or 4 right next to each other, and when you flexed the board it made them touch just barely, and then whenever it flexed the other way they came apart, and so it was shorting out on the back of the board. So all I had to do was bend one of those little posts and everything was cool. And we put it back in, put a black light in it, clean, 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 and it came out pretty nice, if I do say so myself. So we didn't replace the overlay. It had one little rough spot there, but it looks pretty good, right? So we left it. The marquee cleaned up very nice, and we put the black light in it. Like I said, let me turn off the lights, and you can kind of see the awesome effect that the Asteroids Deluxe had. Check that out. So now that you've seen that, you want to see something really old? That's the original Asteroids. We've got one of those in right now too. And you can see how it's just very plain looking compared to Asteroids Deluxe. This doesn't look deluxe at all, does it? Very plain. Wow, that looks deluxe. Anyway, they're both great games. This one also has the first ROM revision, the hard one. So like that satellite comes out right at the beginning. I'll start it. I can't play with one hand, but we'll try. You'll see you'll see just how quick the Gotcha. Boy, you could probably play like this. No need to twist. Just move out of the way. Yeah, see how the asteroid is, see how the satellite, I mean, is on the very first board? That's how you can tell the first ROM set from the later ROM sets. I believe I've got that right. I'm sure some expert will let me know if I do not. Well, there you go. So it all came together pretty well. It plays well, and that's kind of, we just wanted to film this video to show you like what all's involved with fixing one of these older games whenever we get in and it needs everything. So we worked through it. Like I was saying, just start at the wall and work your way all the way through it, and then you can tell. You know, whenever you're done, you know for sure that everything is good to go. So if you enjoyed this video, what we need you to do for us, we did this all for you, right? And it's free. You didn't pay to watch this. It's free, right? So what we need for you to do is give us a thumbs up, because that helps us out. It lets everybody else know, hey, this video was so cool that somebody took the time to give it a thumbs up. Leave your comments below. Let us know what you think about this video. If you repair these yourselves, you can tell me what I did wrong. If you got any little hints on fixing Atari boards, let us all know. And make sure to subscribe to us if you like videos like this. We do new videos every week, and we will see you on the next one. Now you can see all the games that we do have available for sale if you're looking to buy something on our website. Go to lionsarcade.com, or you can stop by and see us. We're in downtown Rock Hill, South Carolina, and we've got a showroom full of arcade games for sale at all times. We're in Rock Hill, South Carolina, which is about 15 miles south of Charlotte, North Carolina. And come by and see us, or check out our website, or like we said, leave your comments below and we'll try to respond to all of them. So y'all have a good evening. Hope you enjoyed the video.